Hi, I'm Rick Albert, and welcome to The Key to the City of Angels, the podcast where we unlock the secrets of Los Angeles real estate. With over 300 real estate deals under my belt, I've seen it all, from house hacking strategies that build wealth to helping clients close multi-million-dollar deals in one of the most competitive markets in the world. Every week, I'll bring you expert insights, market trends, and inspiring success stories to help you navigate the LA real estate scene. Whether you're a first-time buyer, an investor, or just curious about what it takes to thrive in the City of Angels, this podcast is your guide to making smarter decisions and achieving your goals. So grab your keys. It's time to unlock your path to prosperity in Los Angeles real estate. Hello, everyone. Rick Albert here with another episode of The Key to the City of Angels. Super excited to talk about something that I haven't talked about before, which is a lot about luxury assisted living. So I have Brett Chotkevys. Did I do that right?
Yeah,
Close?
You got it pretty good on that one.
Cool. Pretty good. I appreciate that. Co-owner of Platinum Resort Assisted Living and Assisted Living Mansion. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
Yeah. First of all, how did you get into this space?
Man, it was a long story, right? No one ever thinks, oh, I'm going to get into memory care because I have no background in medical or anything like that. My background is in real estate investing, and I was flipping houses for about 10 years. And it was just this kind of natural progression, right? I think so many people that are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs see this opportunity, right? The baby boomer generation that's there, they call it the silver tsunami. There's so many people getting older and older, right? And you track this wave along. There's always been a business opportunity as they were all buying their first car, buying their first house. Now they're all getting into retirement and end of life things. And so being a real estate guy, I love building things and I'm good at raising money. And so I was doing that for a long time, but wanted something bigger. I wanted like just one big deal that would get me to my financial goals. And I was having a hard time doing that, flipping a little house here and there and doing those kind of things. But in between step, I bought a rental property. It was a duplex. And I ended up creating like kind of a room and board for a bunch of guys who were often on the streets. And I hired someone to live there and cook for them and really just take care of these guys. And that was really something that was a stepping stone here because I ran that for about 2 years. And I really wanted to combine these two passions, building things in real estate and then helping people. And so that was what I thought I would do. And it worked out good for about 2 years until like one of these guys, he was high and lit the house on fire. And I'm like, nope, that's the last straw, man. We're going to go a different direction with this. And I'm like, okay, my grandma at that time was like 96 years old. Okay, what about this? What if I build my own assisted living and I put my own grandma on it? Fast forward a little bit later, I built an assisted living and then I put my own grandma on it. And that was in 2019.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm hearing more and more of it here in LA on a much smaller scale. Like I had a listing where it was a 3-bed, 2-bath house and a 2-bedroom ADU, so the rentable guest house. And so I had people interested in buying it where they were going to do assisted living for the main house and then the employees were going to live in the back unit.
Yeah, that's really common. In California, it's 6 beds. There's, I don't know, probably 1,000 or more 6 beds across the state.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure.
There's a big opportunity. I didn't like that model. I actually moved from California to Texas in order to do this because I didn't want to do one of those 6 beds. And you could do bigger in California. It's just harder. There's more hoops and there's more legislation. And really everything business-wise is harder in California.
Yeah, that's why most people leave California. It's not business friendly. But then it's like but then we wonder why things are so expensive. There's no competition because the people who figure it out. So give me like a high level of when you're talking about these like mansions, tell me about the size, the scale. What are we talking about here?
For sure. Each of my mansions, they are 10,000 square feet. They're 16 private rooms with their own private bathroom. So they're pretty large rooms. Chandelier in the room. They have their own built-in fireplace. Now, granted, it's electric. It's not real fire. But yeah, everyone's got their own like master bedroom. It has its own library, its own salon. It has a garden room. We have a private chef for each of our mansions. And then so the building itself is gorgeous. And it's literally like floor to ceiling glass walls. It's just super high-end and beautiful. But it's also very practical. It's purpose designed for end of life and for memory care, specifically people with dementia in there.
Okay.
And so we do that, but then we also combined like the service part of it. So it's end of life. We have everything that you could get at like a big facility, you can do there, right? So home health, hospice, the doctor comes in every single week, all of those kind of things. It so it almost is like, why would you go to the big 60-bed facility when you could get everything in this 16-bed mansion?
Which makes sense, but price wise, because that's the biggest
Mhm.
concern when I'm talking to
Yeah.
people is like the price of this, which is, look, you have overhead. It is what it is, but
Oh,
like in terms
it's
of
yeah.
price point for a 60 bed versus what you guys are doing versus what insurance is
Mhm.
covering.
So our model is all private pay. And so really, there's really two options in the market. It's either private pay, which is most people, or a state-run nursing home, which is that's the kind of stuff in Happy Gilmore and on the news where it's horrible. It's that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's actually very challenging in the space. Either mom or dad has prepared for end of life, and a lot of times they are selling
Mm,
some real estate off, and they have $1 million worth of equity, and now that covers them through end of life. Or it's the kids have to step up, and a lot of times
yeah.
maybe a third of the residents that we have, they don't have the money, but the kids have stepped up and they split it. So it's honestly, it's not cheap. And consider if you're going to get into this, it's not an easy business because it's honestly, it's almost three businesses. You're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never close. And specifically for us, it's like it's dementia and it's end of life, and there's behaviors and there's managing medications and there's all these different things. You have to charge a lot because you have a lot of different things that are happening.
Yeah. So then how do you, when you're building these sites, so, and again, my only main frame of reference is here. It's like the zoning has to be a certain way. There are certain properties that would lean towards this. In other states, is it? I'm assuming it's much easier on some levels, but what do you look for in a site before you build?
Yeah, you touched on the first kind of step there. And I would say that you could do this in every single city in every single state because it first and foremost goes back to zoning. If you're in Los Angeles, you can build a 60-bed facility, right? So you can build a 16. You just probably are going to have to go commercial, right? And then now you're
Hmm.
paying more for land and you're doing all the extra things. And it's a barrier to entry. And I really like that because it keeps all the small mom and pop people out of the game.
Right.
And I'm almost in this like sweet spot in the middle. So all of the mom and pop people can't compete with me because they're doing the little 6-bed home conversions. But then you have big corporate and REITs and VCs and those kind of capital. They're not doing this model because it's too small for them. They're going to go build a
Mm,
4-story building with 150 units of independent and then 60 of assisted living and then 20 of memory care, right? And they're going to have the service, the care, it's going to be terrible, right? That's just the way they run their business.
right.
It's all people. This business is all people, and you just can't provide great service in that quality. So I feel like I'm in this kind of middle spot here. There's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of competition. And on the small side, you got the 6 beds and they can't compete because they're sharing rooms. They don't have a chef, they don't have the medical stuff. On the big side, that's honestly where most of our residents come from, is we are stealing all of
Mm,
those grandmas and grandpas after a year or two of them being there because they're constantly getting bad care. They're constantly having staff turnover, manager turnover, and they'll come to me. And so jumping back to pricing, my model is I want to match the top of the market for usually the new construction luxury big smelly facility, specifically on
okay.
like the end of life and memory care side.
So the idea is like, hey, look, I'm the same price, but you're going to get better quality.
Yeah,
So for
exactly.
them,
You
it's
still the
easier to
chef,
make that
still the private
transition.
room, but it's smaller, more intimate. Uh-huh. Yep.
Now, out of
It's honestly,
curiosity,
it's a no-brainer from a sales perspective.
that's what I'm thinking. It's, yeah, why wouldn't you? Because clearly they can afford it. They
Yeah.
were in a bigger facility. Out of curiosity, like, why go the extra mile in terms of a fireplace? Or especially when we're talking like memory care, and I don't know as much about the
Mhm.
space, but like, to be blunt, is this more like to sell it to the kids to get them to move the
Yes,
parents
honestly, it
over?
is, right?
Like, I'm
You
like,
kind
if
of hit
I'm
it on the
80
head
years
there,
old, I don't know if I care about a fireplace or like a library.
right? Yeah, for sure. Our mansions, that we're in Texas here, and it looks like
Sure.
Chip and Joanna Gaines designed it. It's very
Okay.
farmhousey and that kind of stuff. And then so we build these across the country in multiple states. So we'll
Mhm.
make it look like what it needs to look like for that area. But
Got it.
nonetheless, what we are doing is we are selling to usually the daughter. It's usually a 60 to 70-year-old affluent person because the mom or the dad, right, they have dementia usually. They're in their 80s, 90s, 100 years old. They're not coming and touring. They're staying usually in the other facility that's providing bad care. And now the daughter's touring through 3 or 4 or 5 of these. and they want to know that they can check the box that mom has her own private room, her own private bathroom. She thinks mom's going to need all these things. Mom doesn't, especially at end of life and memory care. She has no idea what a remote control is, let alone how to use the TV or anything. We're selling to the daughter, and the daughter wants to come visit, and they want all those things. And that's why we designed it this way. I want to stand out from all of the competition. And so we do a lot of the little details on the physical building. And so that's why everyone will have their own roll-in shower, right? It's fully ADA. You can get all the way through end of life where you can't toilet yourself anymore. And we can do all of those things, built-in closet, built-in dressers. We do custom accent walls in every room, the chandelier, the fireplace, like you said. Because honestly, it's from a numbers perspective and a real estate play, it's not that much more. And you're amortizing this over 25 or 30 years, but you're able to charge, if you can charge an extra $500 times 16 rooms, that's an extra $8,000 a month, but your mortgage went up by $1,500 to do the little details, right? You stand out, and we take the same applicable standards to the care. I want to have the best of the best care. I want to have the best of the best everything. And it just makes it really easy to win because I'm stealing the grandmas and I'm stealing their staff from the big corporate, right? I'm going to provide I can pay a little bit more because I'm charging a little bit more, and I can keep the best people, and it just makes it ezy. Well, I shouldn't say easy. Now, it makes it easier.
Let's go into that because you are running multiple businesses here. So how do you manage each, we'll call it department or each segment in that respect? So like you have managing the house, construction, but also the staff, plus care, plus everything.
I guess my role is more on the real estate side. And so I'll help build these as we continue to build and expand. And then my wife, Laura, she's on the operations side. Really, we just finished building 2 mansions a couple months ago. And it was a ton of work for me for the last couple years as I'm going through planning and zoning and permitting and building and all those different things. And then I hand the baton to her, and she has a team of 7 managers between our locations. And so she's at the top setting the culture, doing all of those kind of things, but has the staff below her to do all the day-to-day kind of stuff.
Okay. Now, the building side, what is the average length of time from the day you buy the land to get it up and running?
It can be very case by case, but I would say 18 months to 2 years is a good goal. Construction itself is about 9 months to build one of our mansions. And then you have licensure after that, and that's different in every single state. Some are easier, some are not so easy. Texas is relatively easy. It takes about 3 months. So you got construction and licensure, which is about a year. And then you have to find the land, get through plans and permits and that kind of stuff. And the fair length of time is 6 months. It definitely can take a year depending on the jurisdiction and how strict they are with permits and those kind of things.
God, which is funny because like just to build a regular house here in LA could take you a year. And here you are building like a mansion. I remember we built a house on the development side from like start to finish. It took 9 months, and that was like a record. Otherwise, it's like 1 to 2-ish years because there's so many loopholes to go through.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But our buildings, our mansions are really just a house. It's literally just a huge stick-built house. And just think it's still 1 kitchen, 1 living room, 1 dining room, and then just 16 bedrooms that are just copy and paste. So it actually gets pretty easy. You kind of have economy of scale with the construction time, but also with the pricing.
Which makes sense, right? Because you're picking the same finishes or at least similar finishes. Now, is each bedroom and each bathroom pretty much identical? I know floor plan wise they are, but finish wise, copy and paste.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, when you were flipping homes, how did that apply to what you're doing today?
We took the same kind of idea as much as we can, and I always try and make everything as systematized as possible. So we did 200 plus flips over the years, and it was just our standard flip. We change the standard flip every year or so, right? But I give it to my project manager, hey, we're doing the exact same thing. And we'd have different skins or paints and roof colors and things like that. So it's like, all right, the inside's always the same, and we're doing this exterior. And we had ABC exteriors, right? And okay, cool, go. And she would know, here's all the pricing, here's what everything looks like, can get me a pretty close bid real quick on that kind of stuff.
Got it. Okay. So it's just a lot of the systems just on a bigger scale, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the industry because a lot of people are like, I want to get into short-term rentals. I want to get into midterm. This is a whole nother space. And logically it makes sense. Baby boomers are heading there. But what are you seeing we'll start with the next 25 years and then I may ask beyond that.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little perspective because I coming from real estate and did all sorts of different things in real estate to try and find what I was going to scale.
Hmm.
This is, I call it one and done. You just got to do one great deal and then that's it. So cash flow wise, we do about $500K a year in cash flow from each of the mansions because it's an
Okay.
active business. This is not a passive real estate play. So you have the active business putting off a lot of cash, but then you also, when you build new construction, we have almost about 40 to 50% equity after we finish completion building new construction. So we have a
Huh.
couple $1,000,000 of equity on day one once you get your CO. I have friends in the short-term rental place and they would look and they would buy these houses in the mountains or in the beach and they'd be a couple $1,000,000 each. And they're telling me about all the work they have to do. Like it's a job, it's a grind
Oh
and all
yeah.
the different things. And I'm looking at them like, bro, like I have this one assisted living here and you are working way more than I am. And my cash flow is 5x what yours are. Right. I think from
Right.
that perspective, that's really why I lead down this path and I'm building these all over the country is because, man, the opportunity is now, right? Like
Uh-huh.
consider the competition. There's a zillion people trying to get into short-term rentals. There's not very many people trying to get into assisted living. And those that are trying to do a different model than me, they're trying to do the RAL model. They're trying to get a house and convert it and do 6 or 8 beds. And the math doesn't pencil for that. Anybody thinking to get into that, I don't recommend it. I tried getting in there and there's just not the income to be able to support what staffing is now, worth, how much
So,
labor is now.
so it's not the real estate side that's the issue in terms of acquisition of price. It's more about running the business portion. That's why it's
Mhm.
harder. Because the assistant, you're going to pay whatever tens of thousands of dollars per year, whether there's one person there or 100 people. Is that kind of the thought process? So the scaling is not there.
Yeah, you have to have the scaling. That's true, right? It's similar to if you're going to invest in apartments, right? Like the
Hmm.
more doors you have, the bigger the profit is on that deal. You move a little bit of price increase and it blows things up. It's the same kind of thing with this model. You're looking at 6 or 8 beds. You don't have the volume or the numbers to really afford the expenses that you have, specifically just with labor, right? There is a threshold to that. And when you get to a certain labor amount, it just levels off, it plateaus. And so what I think is awesome about this business is my income and my expenses are pretty much fixed every single month. I know I'm gonna, as long as I keep my beds full, and we usually do, it's here's my income every single month. I'm gonna have about 128,000 top line income come in. Here's my expenses right here. It's gonna be about $80,000 after everything, right? I'm gonna have 40-ish, 45-ish grand of net profit every single month. And it's does not have the wide swings of, oh, we're in off season on my short-term rental and I don't have enough this month. It's so consistent. You make a sale, a resident moves into a bedroom, they're there for 18 months to 4 years, right? This is not 2 months and then they pass away. I got to make 5 sales a year on each of my mansions. It's so consistent.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have like a criteria of who comes in? Because to your point, if someone's, hey, look, my mom, she's
Mhm.
not doing well. She only has 2 months. We just need her to be somewhere comfortable. Is that where like you would step in, or you're more like, no,
No,
I
that's
need.
not our resident, yeah. So,
God.
what you described, I consider more of a hospice house. There's
Hmm.
places where you
Okay,
go and
fair enough.
you're just there for a couple weeks to pass away.
Hmm.
We are looking for people who are gonna be they have an issue, they have a problem. A lot of times it's
Hmm.
either a cognitive problem, they have memory care, or a
Sure.
physical problem. They may be incontinent or two-person transfer, and they can't take care of themselves any longer. It could be excessive medications that they need, but that doesn't mean they're about to die. And a lot of times our people will be on hospice, but you can be on hospice for years and even move
Hmm.
off of hospice and get better. So, yeah, we are looking for people who mostly have memory care. And man, talk about a really bad wave that's coming is people are getting memory care, dementia, Alzheimer's earlier and earlier. And it's just like the amount of people we have in their early 70s that we get who don't know their
Wow.
name anymore and they don't know their family anymore. They have the old memories, but no new memories are being remembered. So many people like that. It's horrible. And so they're, like things like that's a big problem for the family to solve. You can't take care of
Yeah.
mom if she doesn't remember to put her clothes on and she runs down the street every day because she thinks she needs to go to the mailbox or go pick the kids from the bus stop. And that was 50 years ago. They just keep
Right.
doing those things. And we have locks on our doors and everything. You can't get out. So there are certain people that we're looking for. Our niche and our model is really not beginning assisted living. And I think when you move into assisted living, there's like a beginning stage of it. And then we
Mm-hmm.
do more end of life assisted living and or memory care on that. And that's usually a bigger problem to solve. And that's why it's expensive. Because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, like mom needs care 24/7. And if you're going to live at home, you're going to hire someone for $30 an hour. And you're going to end up paying 20 grand a month or more. So when you go to a facility and it costs $8,000 or $10,000 a month, it's expensive, but it's half of what you were paying, but it includes food and you can go on vacation again and you can have work again. A lot of times the families, they have to quit their jobs and take care of mom.
I unfortunately know people like that, right? They basically put their life on hold to take care of someone older, and that's also not a life for that person either.
Mhm.
So how did you what made you decide, hey, I want to be in this segment versus, like you said, the early on or true end of life? What made you want to get into this little pocket?
Yeah, part of it was my own grandma. So
Uh-huh.
she was 96 when I started looking into this. By the time we finished building, we moved her in, she was almost 100 years old. So
Um,
she was the first resident that we moved in, and she lived to 104. So she was with us, but dementia, full nonverbal. The last 3-4 years of life, she couldn't speak. She didn't know
mhm.
anything anymore. You get to the place where you actually have to hand feed them and remind them how to chew and swallow it, and all of the horrible things that happens with that disease. So I was looking for a place for her. But then, honestly, from a math perspective, when you look at these things, it's the same building, so it's the same mortgage amount, it's the same utilities, it's the same food. You pay the staff the same. But if you charge beginning assisted living, it may be 30%, 40% less expensive. So to give a little bit of context, it might be 5 to
Mm,
6,000, right? But if you have memory
okay.
care and you're taking care of these bigger problems, that might be 8,000, $9,000 a month. And that
Mm,
example might be a little tighter on those numbers. But
sure.
if you have an extra 30 or $40,000 of income and the exact same expenses, that's some pretty strong profit right there.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So going forward, because thinking out loud, and I'm one of those people, I'm a smartass, not a know-it-all, so feel free to correct me. So
Okay.
we have we had the baby boomers. This is going to be the next, 20, 30 years. Then there may be a little bit of a lull before the millennials start moving in. And if each baby boomer, which is already a massive generation, if each one on average had one kid, so you're set for a while, but now we're starting to see a
Mhm.
slight population decline, right? Like instead of the 2.3 kids, I think we're down to 1.9 kids. Where do you see things maybe pivoting? And honestly, this may be so far out, you're going to be like, dude, I'm retired by then. So that could be a thing, but
That's a
I'm kind of
fair
curious.
consideration. Yeah. So where we are at now, the very front of the baby boomer generation is just hitting 80 years old, plus or
Right.
minus a couple years, right? And the average person moving into assisted living, especially the end of life memory care, is like 82. So we're
Okay.
literally just hitting the very front of this. And coming out of COVID a few years ago, it drastically stopped lending and construction. And really, what that means is all big corporate and VC backed stuff stopped building things a few years ago. So now there is this big wave of people coming in, and the supply is 25 or 33% of what we should be building each year. So we're literally
Okay.
building into a deeper and deeper hole in the marketplace. And that's why I think people who have this drive to do this, they should get into this, because you're either competing with old buildings that are 20, 30 years old and outdated, or newer stuff that's not coming on the market that often, but it's still corporate ran. And there's a lack of heart and purpose, and from the top down going through staffing. And it's easy to beat them at their own game.
Okay.
So I think we're good for at least 20 years. Where I do think the change is not the population changing, it's robots and it's AI. What
Okay.
will that do as robots? Everyone has their own robot and they start becoming humanoid robots. And now robots can learn to give you your medications or wipe your bottom when you have briefs and all of those kind of things. So
Hmm.
as soon as there's humanoid robots that can help take care of people, man, I'm buying some, and I'm going to do a 1-to-1, like one human to one robot in my assisted livings. And let's just see how
Right.
this goes. Cause I think that's actually the future of it. And there might be a pivot there later on.
It makes sense, right? You could even just on the back end in terms of, okay, here's a database of all of our, do you call them patient guests?
I call them residents, but
Residents.
I'll actually call them grandparents or grandmas or grandpas.
All right.
I
So
think
you
it's
have
more
grandmas and
personal.
grandpas. You have a entire database of it. AI then can then say, okay, based off what you're telling me, this is the regimen they need. It's just easier to dispense. I could just imagine in a back room somewhere where like someone walks by and it pops out all the required pills for each room. It's just like
Yeah, I
like
mean, I
a
think
vending.
that's definitely in the future, but I think a very practical way to start and transition is there is so many mundane tasks that our human caregivers are doing. You change someone's brief, right? You change their
Mhm.
adult diaper, and then you have to tie it up because it stinks and walk it outside. The human can do the human stuff. The robot can go take it outside and take out the trash and do the dishes and all those other kind of things.
Got it. And I think some people still want those soft skills, that human to human interaction. So to your right, so like to your
Mhm.
point, at some point it'll just get passed on in some way. So one of the thoughts, and I was taking notes, like difference between doing this in a house, like you're building from scratch, versus let's
Mhm.
say doing a conversion from like a hotel.
So there's pros and cons to all these things. If you do a
Okay.
hotel or even just a large home, you can do these things. Now, the first consideration is zoning, right? Because again,
Right.
we'll take you, for example, in California. You can
Okay.
do a house and you can go up to 6 beds. But if you're at
Mhm.
7, right now you can't. Now it's a whole different license type and it's a different zoning
Mhm.
type. So now you're kicked out of residential. So now are you commercial, mixed use, R4? You got to look at those kind of things. So a lot of
Okay.
big houses are in residential, which by default means you can't do any of them. Now, could you use a hotel? Yeah, you could. I have a friend that's done it. It goes back to what is your model? Because if you have stairs, multiple stories there, you're not going to have memory care. You're not going to have end of life. Pretty much all of our people are on wheelchairs, walkers, or don't even know their name anymore. So you don't put
Sure.
stairs in front of them. Right now, if you all single story and that kind of stuff, you could do stuff like that. I did a house conversion. That was the first property I did in 2019, and
Mhm.
it's 15 private rooms, 12 bathrooms, and about 6,300 square feet, all one level ranch style house that I did a big addition, and that's fantastic. It worked out great. I was in a non-zoned area, but the other consideration, this is a big potential deal killer here, is ADA. So Americans with Disabilities Act. It's state by state of what the requirements are. But for me here in Texas, I had to have at least 50% compliance with ADA. And it gets into everything. So you think you can keep this room, you think you can keep this hallway, this door, you can't. All of them are demoed. Every wall has to
Mhm.
move. The subfloor has to be jackhammered because the toilets have to move, the showers have to move. The amount of space you need to comply with ADA. And again, for me, I had to have at least half of them. But if you build new construction, it has to be totally compliant. And it's kind of state by state of if you're going to do a conversion, what level of compliance you have to have. But I think that's the biggest challenge. You go and convert something and it's, I don't know, can this wall even stay here? No, it can't. Okay, how do I re-engineer this building? Crap. Like a lot of times, honestly, you're going to build something great and big and do a conversion. It's cheaper to start from ground up.
Or it's just easier at that rate. I remember I showed a client a house once where it was in such rough shape. We brought two contractors through, and they're both like, "Give me an extra 100K. Let's just tear down the house." Like it was just
Right?
they're
It'll be
like,
so much
"What's
better.
the point? What's the point in doing this work? You might as well just tear it down." So it's not even so
Uh-huh.
much of does it make sense to do the conversion. It's like you might just be forced to scrap it anyways, or the cost may end up being there anyways. Getting something down to the studs is like, I've seen the numbers. It's different than brand new construction for sure, but on some ways, to your point, it's like it may not be that much of a difference.
No, it gets really similar. I think you end up paying near the same, but you have a product that is definitely inferior. And so it's harder to make sales. It's harder
Okay.
to have the space that you need to provide care. Think about if you take a regular house, it has a 32 or 36-inch hallway. You cannot get two people past each other in a wheelchair. You need a 6-foot
Mm,
hallway, those kind of things. Think about 16 people in wheelchairs around tables. You know how much space you need to pass those kind of things? And when one has to go
right.
potty, you have to move them out of the way and there's just not enough space. You have to purpose design this kind of stuff. Otherwise, two things, you will not make sales as much as you could. And second thing, you'll have staff quit all the time because you're making their job unnecessarily hard. And that is my biggest priority as an owner. I want to be as passive as I can. And so I need to have great quality staff and management that I'm making their job easy on. And the physical building, it does a lot for that.
God. Now, on the residents, how much you said they're usually there up to 4 years. What is like your typical
Mhm.
like vacancy rate for some of these properties?
We actually keep between a 96 and a 98% occupancy rate.
That's really good.
And this is since like 2020. We Now again, I said earlier in the podcast, like how easy it is to make sales on these kind of things. It's
Right.
because there is no good competition out there. It's either too small and they can't get the care, or it's too big and the staffing and all that kind of stuff is challenging. So we track all our KPIs. We have 3 to 5 new tours a week at our buildings here in the greater Austin area. And most of those people are just like, hey, you know what? If you have a room open, I'll put a deposit down. I can move in now. Because again, they're not coming from home. When you're looking to get into this, you don't have to find an area where there's no assisted livings around and you're going to find a bunch of old people live at home. No, you're just going to go to the concentration of assisted livings and
Yeah.
provide better care and have a better building than them. And you're going to steal all those grandmas and grandpas.
Do you get a lot of people coming in from out of state? Like, I would think, okay, California,
Mhm.
maybe it's just so much more expensive. My mom has severe dementia. She doesn't know where she is, anyways. So I'm going to send her to Austin, or we're all going to move to Austin. Do you see any
Yeah,
of
it's
those
more
types
about
of
the
trends?
latter, right? So
Okay.
in Texas, no one is from here, right? Everyone has come from everywhere
Right.
else in the country
Especially
here.
Austin.
Yes. And so again, you want to be, where is the 50 to 70-year-old affluent person moving
Mhm.
to, and be near 10 minutes of them, because they'll
Mm.
move here, love it, work their thing, get into early retirement life, and then move mom or dad here. As mom or dad starts falling, they'll sell the house,
I
take
see what
mom's
you're saying.
cash, and now they become power of attorney. They'll move mom here. And now a lot of our residents, they didn't grow up in Central Texas, but family moved here. And so they followed.
Got it. So it's wherever the parents are, then they eventually bring the parents over to them. Basically,
Mm.
how we see this, which is interesting because, to your point, as we talked about earlier, it's like you almost have two different customers. You have the actual grandma, grandpa, but then you have the family, because you're really probably
Yeah.
communicating more with the family just as much as you're
Mhm.
communicating with the resident.
Yeah, it's almost like preschool in that way, right? Like you're taking care of the
Yeah.
preschooler, but really your
It's that
customer
bell
is
curve.
the parent. Yeah.
It's that bell curve
Mhm.
of life. So, no, I totally get it. So, what is some of the obstacles that you've been seeing going forward in this space? I'm sure
So we
there's
talked about a couple of them.
regulation.
We talked about planning and zoning, those kind of things. Get
Hmm.
over hurdle. I think the next biggest hurdle people have is funding. How do I get a loan for this kind of? A typical deal that we'll do is between $3 and $4 million, and
Okay.
so we
That's
do
all in.
SBA loans a lot of times. That's total development costs.
That's
Yes, that's
development plus
land, that's
land. Okay.
construction. Yes, and all of the working capital and business capital, even
Okay.
safety nets, reserves, all that kind of stuff. So SBA will fund everything with usually a down payment of 10 or 15%.
That's
So
really good.
it makes the
The key
numbers
real
very
estate.
easy to do this. No, this is why, right? This is why I love this opportunity,
Right.
because this is first and foremost a business opportunity that is backed by real estate. So you have both plays
Hmm.
here, which makes it very easy for lending, because they're lending on cash flow. They're lending on a business that spits out a lot of cash flow. And so they don't necessarily go back to your personal debt to income ratio like you're buying your own house, right? They're going to look at
Yeah.
what's the cash flow of the deal and then look at it globally. And if it's spitting off 40, 50 grand a month in profit, then it's okay, cool. This deal is going to be great. How do you look on paper? You have to have at least good credit, and you can't some kind of W-2 in order to carry you through construction stuff. But a lot of times you don't have to have a multi-millionaire kind of net worth in order to do a deal that's $4 million, right? We partner with
Interesting.
people that are teachers or nurses, right? They make 100 grand a year on paper. They have some money saved, but they bring in an investor partner. They'll bring in $300,000 to $500,000 of investor funds, give away some equity there, and then go to the SBA, and the SBA can fund the extra $3 million or so, and then they're able to do this fantastic deal.
Now, are they, for the loans, are they using the property as collateral, or there's no
Yeah,
collateral?
property will be collateralized. The
Okay.
personal property of the business will be collateralized as well, because there's a real
Okay.
estate and the operations company. It's possible it goes back to appraisal on, is there further collateralization needed? They might need rental properties or other personal properties. For a lot of our teams and the deals that we do, because we're building new construction and we're forcing the equity in the construction side, there's
Hmm.
no additional collateral that's needed, right? Because it's not like we're going and buying an
Mm.
existing facility. It's worth 4 million. We're getting an appraisal at 4 million and we're paying 4 million. That's not a great deal. But if I can
Right.
build at 2.5 million in hard cost, so it's say 3.3 in total development cost, and now I have a valuation of 6.5 million, man, I got a lot of equity there already, and it makes it a no-brainer for the bank.
Right, which is again why the new construction can make more sense than buying something that's existing.
Mhm. You just got to go through the hoops and the pain. It's an extra year of stuff, but it's mostly the additional trouble is planning and permits and zoning and those kind of stuff, right? If you do a home conversion, you jump right in, but then you open the walls and everything goes wrong. So it's faster
Done
and
that.
easier when you break ground and you go step by step and just like you fly through it when you're building new construction.
Got it. And with the new construction, you use same plans, similar plans? Because I know in different
Mhm.
states or different markets, they might have slightly different variations, but in terms of copy and pasting that we talked before, how would that
Yeah.
work?
So we're in 16 different states, and I would
Uh-huh.
say that most of those are copy and paste to build the exact same building we have in the Austin area. There are some states that have different requirements from the state licensure level for the physical building. So common things might
Okay.
be some states might require a break room, some might require a different
Oh,
laundry room
interesting.
setup with a clean versus soiled one. Our mansions are built to International Building Code, and so there's not a lot of big deal changes that happen. It's city by city. You got to look at the city codes. Is there anything we have to do, which might be parking, other things like that, and then check the state with the licensure stuff on what those requirements there.
And some of that due diligence would happen before purchase,
Mhm.
especially like the parking. So that way, okay, does this lot support it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff like that. If you have a site that's a little bit tight, right? It's not necessarily
Mhm.
parking. It might be impervious coverage. Do they allow you only cover this much earth? It might be detention ponds or drainage. A lot of the potential
Mhm.
deal killers are fire marshal related. How far is the fire hydrant? Can I get enough water for fire sprinklers? What type of fire sprinklers do I have to have? Residential versus commercial? Is there the volume of water and pressure for that? And fire access, turnaround for fire engine, all of that kind of stuff. You got to get into it on the front side while you're under contract, but before you're really risking any money.
Got it. Now, and this is more for curiosity. So, like, what markets have proven to be much easier to deal with from both building and operations versus some
Mhm.
they're like, I wish we had never stepped foot in this city.
I think I look at it more on a state level, honestly, than a city
Okay,
level.
fair enough.
Business friendly states, Texas is very business friendly.
Right.
There's business friendly states and there's not business friendly states. And so
Mhm.
everything gets harder and more expensive in those states. There's other things that go into it, like they may have FGI requirements, which is a Federal Guideline Institute, additional code and things that just make it really challenging and difficult and expensive for that. Colorado is pretty difficult as a state to be able to get in.
Interesting.
I've seen them ask for e-parking for all of the residents, and we explained that they have dementia, do not have a
They're
driver's
not
license.
driving.
They didn't care. Like they still need their
Really?
own plug-in for their electric vehicles. I'm like, okay, man, just some of those things. So I think you can use common sense without saying throwing states under the
Right.
bus. But here,
Fair enough.
that's how it works.
Now, have you noticed a difference in like profitability? Like, were the more difficult states, did you end up making more money because there's higher barrier to entry, so less competition? I don't know if there's a correlation there.
There is some correlation. A lot of times when you're in some of those other states and parts of those states, some of those cities, what I see is when you have more requirements and laws and they're more employee friendly states, then you
Hmm.
have a lot more pay going to caregivers. Those cities and states where I've seen bed rates get really high when you start
Yeah.
looking at 12, $15,000 a month for bed rates. And so
Wow.
everything's more expensive, but the net profit is super strong. You're making a lot of money in those places. Now there's a bunch of work and a bunch of hurdles, which is honestly is good if it's pushing away all the competition. No little mom and pop person are able to do that.
Yeah. It's similar to like residential rent control. If you take a look at rent control in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, there's a direct correlation between higher rents and actually having rent control. They've done numerous studies. That's why I was like, okay, if it's a higher barrier to entry, maybe there's more money to be made, but you're going through your version of hell in the very beginning
Yes.
to get them through it. All right,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. How, if someone wants to get into this space, what steps should
Mhm.
they be taking?
First and foremost, I would dive into learning the basics, the foundation of what this
Hmm.
looks like. And so I actually have a lot of resources online. You can go to our
Great.
website, assistedlivingmansion.com.
Hmm.
You can hit my podcast as Assisted Living Investing, or
Yeah, I
my
was gonna
YouTube
bring
channel
that
is my
up.
name, Brett Chotkevys. Okay, cool. I have, I don't know, lots and lots of content, hundreds of hours of stuff there for everybody. It's all free. But yeah, I would learn that because there, I think the misconception that people have is you're doing a 16 bed. Well, yeah, you can do that in Texas. You can't do that in California. You can't do that in my state. Yes, you can do it in every single state. Just don't think about it as residential zoning. Okay, spend an extra 500 grand on a piece of land that's commercial. It's more expensive, but you know what? This is a one and done kind of deal, right? That's what I always encourage people. You don't need 7 little 6-bed RALs, right? You need one 16-bedroom mansion that's going to net you 500 grand a year, and you can still be pretty passive in this and work. We work probably 4 hours a week on this business, and it's our team and our management handles it. And it's honestly because of the math, right? Like I have the numbers for that to be able to afford great staff and pay them really well.
Yeah. It's always been interesting because I started my own personal investing. I realized that the numbers worked way better as we started building units, right? Like the single family home versus all my rentals now are 3 and 4 unit properties. I rarely even consider a duplex because it's like, to your point, the cost of everything, a lot of it's the same. The cost of a roof, cost of a sewer line, doesn't matter if it's a single family or multi, it's like the cost is basically the same. So you almost like, yeah, you're better off scaling bigger. And then to your point, don't get too big because then you start getting into its own host of problems, which gives you the competitive edge.
Yeah, absolutely right. You nailed it.
Yeah, very cool. All right. If someone wanted to reach out to you, if someone had questions, wants to get into the space, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would go through the website, assistedlivingmansion.com. In addition to all the resources there, you can book a call with our team and learn more about what we do and if it's a good fit for you and all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. All right, Brett. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been really cool. I really enjoyed this because it is something like we're driving around town. We're seeing more of these types of facilities be coming up because we all know it's coming. So it's good to get ahead of it, even from a real estate perspective, just for investing. So thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm great. It was great to be here and chat with you guys on this.
Yeah, likewise. All right. And thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in to The Key to the City of Angels. I hope you found today's episode helpful as you navigate the world of Los Angeles real estate. Whether you're looking to buy your first home, expand your investment portfolio, or sell in this competitive market, I'm here to help you succeed. Let's connect. Visit my website or follow me on social media to learn more about how I can help you achieve your real estate goals. And if you're ready to take the next step, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to work with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Together, let's unlock your potential and make your real estate dreams a reality.